That is not cloudy. That is something really bad coming over the ridge line. John, I think, sent me a picture of the fire smoke.
The troublesome fire?
Not sure, actually. Could have been that, could have been the Williams Fork, could have even been the Cameron Peak. It's pretty due north of us. We're just over the ridge over in Eureka Valley. I can
send it to Rick.
Yeah, I can actually share my screen.
Yeah.
Was it last night?
Yeah, it was pretty epic up there.
Yeah, it was a troublesome fire. We were over there last night trying to help them evacuate and stuff.
It's terrible.
Yeah, I had 10 officers over there last night. I got 6 officers over there today helping.
Wow. Is there a lot of people to evacuate? Is it like a big subdivision or is it smaller?
It was Grand Lake.
Woo!
The town of Grand Lake.
Oh gosh.
Yeah, it's not good over there. It grew probably close to 90,000 acres just last night.
Wow.
Yeah, at one point we see this huge orange, cloud. I've never seen anything like that.
Yeah, that would have been the troublesome fire. Doug Glidden, who lives up on Miners Candle, he took some pictures from his house and it looked the same.
Yep.
Yeah, it looked the same from almost everywhere. I just got an email and I forwarded it to you at your personal email address, Rick, because for some reason your other emails didn't populate. But yeah, troublesome went up to 25,000 acres. So it grew 85 to somewhere between 85 and 95,000 acres overnight, which is astounding.
Oh, that's
it went to one of the largest in history overnight. So now about 22 or 3 of the largest wildfires in state history have happened since the year 2000, and about half of those have happened in just the last few years. Since about 15.
Yep. Yeah, that's the troublesome.
Where is that picture taken from?
That's taken from my house.
Which is?
Top of York Gulch.
Oh,
yeah, once it got dark, it was really pretty epic.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I was in Estes Park over the weekend, and the Cameron Peak fire was right over the ridge. I think you could see the glow at night. Hey, Randy, to this meeting, do you want to talk a little bit about the construction draws?
About what?
About the construction draws?
Not in this meeting, no.
No, after the meeting?
I
can give you a call.
Let me just check my schedule really quick. Yeah, that's a minimal item and it's water under the bridge at this point. I don't know if it's minimal, but it's water under the bridge, but I'll talk to you about it later on. My schedule, I got another call at I've got another one at 12, and then that's at 12 to 1, and then I've got a 2 to 3. So from 1 to 2, I'm available.
Okay, I'll give you a call.
Okay.
Okay.
No, that's okay. No. Yeah, hold on.
Yeah, so I just wanted to make sure you knew that I got that call this morning.
Hey, Chief Malanka, your mic is not muted. Thank you. There you go. Just in case we said something that we didn't want to say.
Yeah, didn't want to hear.
Well, after this meeting, I'm going to eat lunch, and then I'm going to run up in Jones Pass, Randy, and just look from our side, because I haven't heard much about it. I'm just I don't want it to be forgotten about. I want to go up and look at it and make sure we're doing okay on that.
Okay, what time are you going to go?
After this meeting, and then I'm going to get a quick bite to eat, and then I'll head up.
Okay, maybe if it could be 1 o'clock. I know I just told Brent that we could have a conversation between 1 and 2, but I wouldn't mind, if it's 1 o'clock, if it's after 1 o'clock, which is, I got a meeting from about 12 to 1, but I could even leave that a little early and I could do a write up with you again if you want.
You want me to just pick you up at 1?
Yeah, sure.
All right, I'll be out in front of your house at 1 then.
And Brent, I'll try to talk to you there for a little bit while I'm riding with Rick till I go
Okay,
out.
yeah, you've got my phone number, right?
Yeah, why don't we just do it later? It's not important.
Yeah, that's fine.
Beth, could you let Frank in? I think he's an attendee, or is he in the panelist?
I think you might do well to at some point bring Jim Blugerman up too.
Yes, yeah, and I think Jim is an attendee.
Right. And I see Scott Hawes here, and Scott, you might know. I know it was touch and go whether Monty could make it today. Do you know if he's going to make it in?
I'm looking for him on the attendee list. I don't see it. He's currently over in Grand County, maybe attending meetings with the team, not sure. So I'm here to represent him if he can't join.
Well, it's 11:01. I think we can kick this off. What I think initially what I'd like to do is have Scott kind of explain the scenario on the ground and the explanation of ignition potential and fire risk to us a little bit, and understand and give us just a very, very brief background on the context behind the Forest Service closure, and any other comments he'd like to make, and then open it up to questions of Scott. And Monty may come in. He was trying to get in because he had some really good information he was sharing yesterday, and take in support of the U.S. Forest Service, to include potentially the closing of our county public lands and other public lands in the county, other than the U.S. Forest Service, as well as actions we can take with signage and roads and stuff like that that could be helpful to accomplish the goal of fire risk reduction. So Scott, if you could take it away, would appreciate it.
Sure, and I'm pretty scrambled this morning, so Randy, if I'm not hitting on what you need, please let me know, and likewise for the other folks on the call here. So the stage 3 restrictions are unprecedented action. I've been with the Forest Service for about 20 years now and have never experienced it in my career. I do know the San Juan National Forest did take the extreme measure in 2018, and some of our California forests in Oregon, Washington did experience it as well. So it's unprecedented. It's something we certainly don't take lightly. We want to make sure to provide access to our national forests that y'all own as much as possible, but we're at the point where we need to take the human factor out of the potential for new wildfires. We currently have, and I did share this with Commissioner Wheelock this morning, I did get bounced back on the rest of y'all, 358,000 plus or minus acres of fire on the ground, either on ARP or adjacent to. So just to give you an example, the Clear Creek Ranger District, that's almost twice the size of the Clear Creek Ranger District, now has active wildfire on it. So we have the Colwood Fire in Left-Hand in Boulder County, Cameron Peak in Larimer County, East Troublesome in Williams Fork in Grand County. So far, we've been spared here in Clear Creek. However, we want to take that human component out of it as well. So I do know there's some thought about this weekend being a season ender with the snow coming in. So a few things on that. I've spent over a month at the Cameron Peak Fire, and during August, we did experience up to 14 inches of snow across that fire when it was less than 50,000 acres. Can't remember the numbers there, but it's currently over 200,000 acres, so not season ending. Was unable to pull up their forecast, but I did get it from a regional fuel specialist in the regional office. Next 3 days are still going to be very difficult and challenging before Sunday. The remaining 7 days shows moderation, but the large potential is above average for the rest of the month, regardless of moisture, is the data I have now. So this little shot of moisture will do little to nothing to get us back up where we need to be out of fire danger. So any questions on that?
So my understanding talking to Monty was that he said that the conditions that we have going on right now are worse than he would normally see in a really bad August. And as a matter of fact, they've never seen that ignition level. It's called an ECR or something. Is that right?
It's the energy release component. So
Oh,
it takes in all
ERC,
the factors, and the 97th percentile is what we call bad days. And it's what Monty's talked to y'all about when we've done the RMRI proposals. And it typically would occur in August, September here. Obviously, it's pushing to October, November. It is record-setting high ERCs across the board. They've been at either the 90th or 97th percentile on the Cameron Peak through the duration of the event, with a few blips with some moisture events they've gotten, but they climb rapidly back up to that 97th percentile. So that's where you see your active fire growth, large fire growth, like we did experience last night, to 100,000 acres up at the East Troublesome Fire.
So, so we're at record-breaking ignition levels, ignition potential, and fire danger right now. Is that correct?
So their ERCs really tell you what the potential for large fire growth is, and obviously, yeah, with the dry fuels, our opportunity to have those ignitions is probably higher than normal as well.
Do you see those same? Do those conditions exist in Clear Creek the same as they do in those other places right now?
So our assistant fire management officer for the force, Mark Mendoza, drove through as he's been kind of swinging back between the fires, and he said Clear Creek is ripe for large fires.
Okay. Do we have any other questions right now for Scott?
Scott, are you going to inform the group of what you called me about? Oh shit, did I lose it?
No, you got it, Sheriff.
Sorry. Sorry for the foul language. It's been a rough week. Let them know about what you phoned me on just a little bit ago.
Yes, sir. So originally with the stage 3 restrictions, Grand County was not going to be part of that, but they are signing on for National Forest System lands. Hopefully the order will be in quickly, so they'll be a little behind us, but the intention is that all national forest, minus the Pawnee National Grassland, will be in stage 3 restrictions.
Okay. Well, there was something else that oh yeah, the weather that's coming this weekend. I've had a few people ask, well, is that going to make a big difference? Monty's reaction was that it would be minimal. That when the fuel becomes this dry, it'll take quite a while to be able to rehydrate that fuel, and it would take an extended and large storm to be able to make a significant difference at this time. Is that your opinion as well?
So yeah, we measure fuels by size. So we do 1 hours to 1,000. 1 hours are your grasses, fine fuels. Thousands are your 10-inch logs laying on the ground. So what's really driving it at this point of the year is those hundreds and thousands. What we've been hearing for the incident meteorologist and the fire behavior folks on Cameron is that the 1,000 hours are at 3% and paper is 4%. So the paper in your printer right now, our fuels are drier than what's sitting in your printer, which is again unprecedented. They're usually in the 30% range.
So what is the likely impact of the amount of moisture that we're expected to get out of this system on that potential?
It'll only affect the 1 hour fuels, your grasses, your fine fuels, your 10 hours, the twigs, hundreds and thousands. It really won't have much of an impact to those at all.
Okay.
I don't have any questions on the nature of this risk or the science behind it. Thanks for providing the explanation, Scott and Randy, for prompting a bit more. I think I'm mostly interested in how we're going to act.
Right. I totally agree, and just trying to line up and provide some background under some context to the just some of the driving forces behind our actions.
And I can stay on, let you guys continue with the business at hand, and then be available for any questions if there are any as you move forward.
Okay, thanks. So there are a few different ways that we can handle this. We do have different public land entities in the county that have management authority over their lands. So with regard to closing those lands to entry, one approach is for each of those entities to agree and close their lands within the authority that they have at this time. And some of those lands are HDLP lands, HDPLC lands, and open space, and Denver Mountain Parks are some of the largest holders. And my understanding is that they're, Frank, you're on today. Jim, I see you here from HDPLC. Denver Mountain Parks issued a press release last night. I was calling them to see what they were doing, and they had already made the decision after discussion with the Forest Service to close all Denver Mountain Parks lands within Clear Creek County. Like us, they don't, the Forest Service doesn't, because they're strapped up fighting fires right now, and trying to mitigate, doesn't really have the capability for significant enforcement. The Forest Service has now, my understanding, has provided signage that we can also post and get out on certain roads. There are certain roads which we could blockade with light duty blockades, which can be removed so that fire and whoever needs to get in can still get in out of necessity. And then there's the official closures of those lands. I'm kind of bouncing around here a little bit. I'd kind of like to, if either of the commissioners has anything else to say, otherwise I think I would ask Frank to ask where they're at on open space right now, and some of the others, unless George or Sean wants to weigh in, or Rick.
The only thing I'm as interested in hearing about closing lands using that authority as I am in hearing about the option of just a countywide stage 3 fire ban. So
Right,
kind of
right.
that.
That's there too. Also, I'm interested in that as well. I just thought I'd hear what the options are. But if you want to, do you have a suggestion for a different sequence, and to let Frank explain what challenges they have in front of them that can help explain that to us?
No, I don't at all. I just
okay. Sean. Okay, Frank. Can't hear you, Frank. We can't hear you, Frank. You're muted somehow. Your mic must be turned off or something.
Can we bring in Martha? Maybe she can talk.
Is she out there? Yeah, Martha's out there. Martha, in the absence of Frank's mic, are you able to speak to us about open space current situation? If you're talking, you're muted. We can't see you either, so.
There we go. Sorry, forgot to unmute. I was gonna say, I'm gonna try to call Frank on the phone and see if we can get him that way. We would like to close all of our lands. We were considering keeping the stuff along the Greenway open, but we have no problem closing it if that's what makes sense from the county-wide perspective. And hang on, I'm calling Frank to see if we can get him because he can actually talk through here if we can get him.
Yeah. So you were considering a couple lands leaving open, but in the interest of consistency, you're suggesting that you could just close everything and not keep those couple of picnic grounds along the creek open or whatever.
Right. Frank? Frank? Right, you're not coming through on the thing. If you want to, they've got me here. If you want to talk, they can hear you through my computer. I just said to,
Okay. It's not working. So,
right, so if you want to talk through my phone, they can hear you.
Martha, just go ahead and explain what we talked about.
Okay, that's fine. Anyways, we're fine. We just thought that we would provide some opportunities, but we have no problem. We were just going to keep stuff like the Philadelphia Mill site and the Whitewater Park open. But we're willing to go along with closing everything. It probably makes things simpler because then folks don't have to wonder about what's going on.
Okay, Jim, HGPLC.
Yeah, as I explained to George, we just manage all of our individual properties cooperatively. So it is up to the individual landowners, Town of Georgetown, Silver Plume. I included History Colorado on the email I sent out last night about this meeting. But I'm sure you guys have talked to him about the Loop Railroad, and there is a small slice, I think, of Forest Service land along the top of the ridge, but I think the whole valley is History Colorado. But I told them what was going on. So basically, all of our individual members of HDPLC are aware and can make their own decisions. I see Paul is on the call here, so he can probably update what Town of Georgetown's up to. And I know George spoke with the mayor up in Empire. As far as historic Georgetown goes, we're open to posting our lands as well. We sometimes get into the glitch on Ordinance 4 as to who gets to enforce it, and we never have any problem with you guys enforcing it. But as long as you guys are comfortable with that, we would just as soon sign on and close the parking lot there at Silverdale, and our properties up above on the Waldorf Road should probably join that closure there. I assume that's where you'd probably put one of your barricades. So
my understanding is that in Ordinance 4, there's a provision through which the county can make a blanket management decision for those lands. Is that correct?
There is a provision that the Board of County Commissioners can do a temporary closure as necessary to be posted in specific areas. I think that should, if you do that, I think that would have to be done by a resolution. But we could do that under the ordinance.
So I guess my question for Jim then is, would it be a simpler task for us to invoke that through Ordinance 4 and pass a resolution for a temporary closure of those lands than to seek, just the time involved with seeking concurrence from the?
No, we're in agreement with it. It's more, when you get down to the enforcement issue, and I think you'd need a resolution either way, is my guess. Bob would know more than me, but we're on with it. So that's not an issue at all. It's just sometimes, that, Ordinance 4 gets to be a little bit of a catch-22.
So you do have full concurrence to close from among your members, is that correct?
Yes.
Okay, that helps a lot, because simply, if invoking it is one thing and enforcing it is another. And I'll be frank that we know that with a bunch of our sheriff's units, for example, over helping in Grand County with evacuations, and we're more strapped than ever. Everyone is. The ability to go out and man all of those access points is actually weak, but by sending the message, it seems like the biggest value is going to be in having sent the message, and then in the signage and barricades that we can put up to help get that message out too.
I think, with the properties that we have, you're basically talking Silverdale and the Waldorf Road. Some of the other mining claims and things like that we own, I mean, they're up towards the Sheep Creek or Sheep Keep, going to Empire and things like that, which I don't know how you're going to post Union Pass or any of that stuff. But, our two main traffic areas are really Silverdale and the Waldorf Road.
Pretty easy to post Union Pass and some of the
Yeah.
other places like that. That's simple. We can get that done.
Yeah.
And I think Georgetown probably owns most of Silverdale, so you might want to hear from Georgetown.
Yeah, definitely. So Paul would be the one to talk about town of Georgetown.
Sure, and I have not spoken with the town administrator, but I have authority to speak via this position. I will go on a limb and say the town of Georgetown is in agreement with this this plan to close in order to protect our residents. My question is for and I do have the authority to do that. My question is, would it be easier to shut Guanella Pass 30 days early to prevent people from going up altogether? From my perspective in my job specifically, and cigarettes going out windows, things like that. But as far as the town is concerned, yeah, that's Silverdale. I think we have some part ownership of the Rutherford Trail. Frank is the one with the maps always. We have part of the ownership, I think, of the Rutherford Trail, their upper Silverdale, and I think that's where town ownership ends, but it's mostly the parking lot in that area. But certainly we'd be on board with that.
Is the gate on Guanella is about, I think, a little over 2 miles above Cabin Creek, as I recall.
Yes, but my question is, you have that, remember, you put that, if we could put that traffic sign thing back that was there during COVID shutdown and say this road's closed to all but residents, that might be helpful. Just a thought. I mean, I know I'm not part of this group, but as far as we're concerned, yes, we'll follow whatever the county wants to do.
Okay.
And I don't intend to speak for the mayor of Georgetown, but I will report that the mayor's aware of this. He found out about it in the meeting this morning and didn't register any concerns. Or the police judge, my apologies.
This is Greg Jarvis. Executive Director for HDPLC. I was just wondering about, I have a copy of the map up here as far as Silver Plume goes, because they kind of manage the access to the 730 trail as well as the Argentine Trail up to Pavilion Point. So those are two that HDPLC manages as cooperatively, but the land ownership lies with the town of Silver Plume.
Okay.
And I also spoke with the mayor of Silver Plume, Sam McCloskey, and didn't hear any concerns from him.
I would imagine we get cooperation out of Silver Plume.
Yeah.
Okay. I think CPW, one of the loose ends that's out there, and I had Tim Mock texted me Mark Leslie's phone number, and I work with him in NOCO from CPW, and they do have some lands. They're not a lot, but they have some. There's some small parcels, and so I've got a call into Mark Leslie But he works under Tim and Dan Gibbs, and I don't think we have any pushback there at CPW. It's just a matter of getting them to agree that those lands are closed and state it so that we have public statements on every one of those areas of public land for closure. I did, regarding some of the open space areas like Floyd Hill Open Space and others, I had contacted Jeffco and Colorado Mountain Bike Association, and they were extremely supportive. I did find out that Larimer County has closed all of their public lands anywhere in or near their evacuation areas, which is a big part of the county. They have one public area park that is in the trees in the mountains that is still open, that they're monitoring, that they feel is a lower risk and away from stuff or not upwind of critical assets or something. Boulder County has closed all of their public land in the mountains. Gilpin County has no public lands, but they have, like they did for COVID, have closed 4 major roads that lead to forest access and Clear Creek County, and meaning they physically obstructed them, and they're enforcing it and stopping access. And I know that their sheriff is talking with Rick about making sure that we're on the same page there, because those are accessed out of York Gulch and St. Mary's and a couple other spots. Trying to get, so we're in cooperation there, setting them, the controls at the right places. And Gilpin has also signed a bunch of their secondary roads telling people to turn around and go back where they don't have the power, but they've actually got the manpower out and have 4 roadblocks out heading up to Yankee Hill and the border between Gilpin and Clear Creek. So that's effective cooperation. Tom Hobie with Jeffco Open Space and Trails was very supportive of the closure. They're not closing much in Jefferson County because most of their land is down out of the trees. And so they're not doing a lot right now, but they're monitoring and they're looking at some of the places that are, especially down south, where they've got some forest land south of Evergreen. So they're kind of, it seems like it's a pretty consistent approach across the board for the counties in the ARNF region. Some variety, but a lot of support.
Randy, if I can interject too, we are going to be closing the Virginia Canyon Mountain Park. We'll probably have that posted later this afternoon. There are some heavily vegetated areas, but predominantly the use has been limited to mountain bikers on weekends. There will be a construction crew up there, and I'll be meeting with Brian McFarland hopefully later today to just spec out some safety precautions for the guys working up there. They're doing some excavating and no hot work, but we're gonna ask them to be especially diligent while they're working up there.
Yeah, as far as construction stuff like that goes, Comba told me that they ceased operations and pulled out of the Warren Gulch Trail. That they didn't want to be doing anything that would elevate risk. So
I think, I really think that's a great idea. I'll bring that to the city administrator and recommend that.
Hey, Randy, this is James. We were working on Warren Gulch also with the Mini X we rented. And yesterday when I contacted the Forest Service, or they actually contacted me and told us to pull the machinery out. So they were, in addition to Coma, they asked us to stop building on Warren Gulch Trail.
Okay. Thanks. So yeah, I hate to shut things down for people, but it's just a consideration. Thanks, Chris. Other comments?
Hey, Randy, this is James. In addition to what Greg Jarvis mentioned, you've got the Silver Creek Trail, which is HDPLC managed, and also you've got Saxon Mountain Road.
Right.
And then just one comment on Floyd Hill Open Space. There is the one driveway that goes to the house that we need to leave open. You can put a sign, there's only one entrance to the trail system, so you can blockade that. But it's been pretty heavily utilized. The parking lot's pretty much jammed every day.
Right. Okay, comments. Other commissioners?
Randy,
Yeah, Jim?
if I get a resolution from my board, who should I forward it to supporting the closures?
I would forward it to Bob and Keith, I think.
Okay,
I know that we're, part of this conversation is listening to the fractured nature of the closure and whether there's another action that we can take that would be more, and I don't know that it's necessary. If we get everyone in concurrence, and then we can, as a county, express and communicate to the public that all of our public lands in Clear Creek County are closed with the complete cooperation of all of those public land managers. We probably accomplish the same thing as if we, but there are other avenues like a declaration of emergency and then or a stage 3 closure by the sheriff. And I know that Rick has had some concerns about a county stage 3 closure, although we effectively, by closing lands and posting roads, are communicating the things that a stage 3 I believe all the things that a stage 3 closure would accomplish, but maybe Rick, could you inform that discussion a little bit?
Yeah, I have never heard of a county, and I don't even know if it's legal for a sheriff or the county to do a stage 3 closure. I've never heard of a county. I've heard of the government doing it, but not a county. Bob might be able to inform more, but I don't even know how I would begin to write that up or phrase it legally that we could even do that. Bob?
My recommendation in light of our fire ban ordinance is to rely on the clear authority that we have. And we have quite clear authority through the Open Space Commission. And we have Ordinance 4 with respect to the HDPLC lands. And that covers almost all of the lands that the county owns or within the historic district that other government agencies own.
If we
So
did,
that would be my recommendation.
so I have a question. If we did a stage 3 closure, if we were able to, fabricate that and make it happen, and it were, legal, would it have legal authority over lands owned by any lands owned by state and federal government, like for example, CPW or any other lands? And would it have authority over private land? And since people can live on their private land, the question is going to be hunting and stuff like that. Would a stage 3 ban here ban hunting on private land the way our stage 2 controls fires, for example, campfires and cooking fires on private land?
We can forbid hunting under our existing fire ban. We just have to change it.
To forbid hunting anywhere under our existing stage 2 ban, you're saying?
Yeah, that's a typical stage 2 item.
Scott, I see Scott Hawes has his hand up.
Yeah, my apologies, it's not about this particular thing, but we just got notification that Granby has been evacuated and I have employees coming over and need to make sure that they're taken care of, so I need to duck off.
All right, thanks, Scott.
All right, thanks everybody and good luck.
Thanks, Scott. Good luck.
Randy, I support the county coming out with it. I just would like to add a letter of support from HGI and wanted to know who to send it to. That's all.
Okay, I'd say Bob and Keith and
Okay.
And you can add any of the rest of us to it as well. I mean, putting the commissioners on it is fine.
Okay.
And Beth. And then whatever we do, whatever the outcome of this meeting is, I'm sure there will be a press release coming out quickly this afternoon that tries to communicate the outcome to the public. And my suggestion would be that if we don't have to if we end up not taking a formal action as the county with regard to any of these other solutions, then we would be listing the cooperation and support of all of those land managers, that all of those lands are closed, and effectively imply to the public that all public lands in Clear Creek County are closed to access.
So a couple things I want to make sure I understand. First, as it relates to open space lands, would that be I believe that would be a county action?
It's, in a way, it's a county action, but it's an action by the Open Space Commission. And as Mr. Young has said, although I don't remember if he was able to say it aloud because of his difficulty with the microphone, they're prepared to do that.
Meaning quickly, right? Like today, not after the weekend or something like that.
I would assume they do it immediately. Martha, Frank, did you get your voice back?
Yeah, I mean, we can do it immediately. I don't even know that we have to actually have the Open Space Commission meet. I think we can just decide it.
I think the conclusion yesterday is it's within the authority of the chairman and vice chairman.
Yeah, and this is James. I know when the Forest Service closed, they did it effective at midnight. So people had enough time to have notice.
Okay.
Okay, so then the remaining two pieces that I think I see are both related to county action. The first one being using Ordinance 4 to close HDPLC lands. And then the second one being a modification to our stage 2 fire ban.
Right.
And I think that either the BOCC or the sheriff can do that. Is that correct, Bob?
Yes.
The quicker, well, either way, we can do it here or if Rick's in agreement to modify the stage 2 ban to forbid hunting, period. Is that right, Bob? Is that what you were suggesting?
Yes, that would be something that we're in our version of a stage 2 now, but and I haven't got it in front of me, but I don't think I'm sure it does not preclude. It precludes shooting, but not shooting by hunters who are, licensed and in season.
Right. You have to be actively involved in the hunting process with an active license to go shooting or to go hunting on my stage 2 fire ban. And that was also on Forest Service. Private land, I really don't think this is a big issue, as there's only probably 1% to 2% of all the hunting licenses that can utilize private lands in Clear Creek County. Because you have to have special permission from the property owners and all this stuff to go. I just don't know if we want to go down in the weeds that far, because even a stage 3 isn't denying people to go hunting. It's just they can't use the forest, which is actually denying them hunting, but it's not specifically wrote out that they can't hunt. So I don't know if we want to go that far down into that on the hunting on private property on ours or not.
Well, I know that a lot of the nature of our land here is Forest Service. I can see the maps in my head right now in a couple of areas. Forest Service land with a bunch of mining claims interspersed across that land, 150 feet wide and 1,500 feet long, of various derivations of that where one intersects another. And I have been contacted about people asking me if they can go to their mining claim they bought in the mountains where they like to go and hunt from, because they want to go, and they're saying that they can hunt on their private land. When you know that private land is 150 feet wide, my expectation that a hunter is going to sit within that 150 feet and wait for an elk to walk across is low. So that's the only concern, is that some of the private land hunting here, very much of it is by people who own small pieces and use it as a base from which to hunt in the forest. So from a practical standpoint, anyway, I just want to throw that out. From a practical standpoint, we're looking at trying to support the Forest Service on this. I think it might be in order. It's a matter of who does it. I'm tired of hearing my voice.
I'll weigh in. I've been listening to everything pretty carefully, and just from my own perspective, I certainly support the autonomy of the various land managers to make their decisions, and I support whatever decisions they make. I think I kind of tend to side with the sheriff on the last conversation. I think it's wise for us to be measured in terms of exercising power, and if we're exercising power to address a very small issue, that's just yeah, at some point I think it's, some people would say those who govern least govern best, and I think we should draw a line somewhere and be reasonable and have whatever we do be highly defensible and actually support the goal, which is preventing any forest fires or any kind of a outdoor wildland fire from happening in Clear Creek. And then when it comes to the roads, if we have some very targeted and specific closures we want to do that directly support preventing or making it easier to enforce the Forest Service without inconveniencing our visitors or our citizens, I'm all for that too.
I think that's well spoken. I think that there's as far as inconveniencing our visitors, I agree with when it comes to inconveniencing visitors to our residents' homes and businesses. They will be inconvenienced, like all of us will, in terms of their access to these public lands, which is something different, which is exactly what we're talking about. But I agree with you that, we do have I do know, just for everybody's edification, there was a list that circulated among the sheriff and the commissioners and several other people, kind of a workforce, a spreadsheet of roads that would be signed, and in some cases with a light duty blockade. And they're kind of surgical like that, a list of access points and stuff like that to recreation areas to prevent people from going to that recreation area without dissuading them from going to the homes and businesses. So that, no matter what it is, if people are trying to get to their home or trying to have people come to their home for some reason, that can still take place.
Randy?
And I said, and I'm sorry I didn't, because it was a busy night and morning with other meetings, but I did say I would look at that list, and I figured the longer it is till I look at the list, the less I'm likely to have to say if I want to add a road or something, because it will have been covered by the time I get to it.
Randy? One thing that I noticed in Monty's bulletin that he sent out, he didn't really address any in holdings. And, I'm a member at Naylor Lake, and I forwarded the thing to Smokey just so he could get it out to our members with a heads up on it. But, this issue of people wanting to hunt on their mining claims and things like that, maybe Monty needs some clarification on in holdings.
Yeah, and that's why we're bringing this up, and that's why the modification of the stage 2 could be helpful. And I know that some of those in holdings are like the Denver Mountain Parks property, so that's why they've stated that it's a public land thing, but it's a holding within Clear Creek and some of it's completely undeveloped. For example, there are some large tracts that sit just a little ways west of Witter Gulch and north of Bear Creek, which have obvious catastrophic potential if somebody was in there playing around. Now, they're not developed, so I don't know that they get much traffic, but it is hunting season, and I'm glad that they came out and said they closed those lands, because that whole Witter Gulch, Bear Creek area has a phenomenal amount of assets that could be destroyed pretty quickly and easily if something went wrong. And so it's the same kind of a feeling when I look at the mountain, when I look at the mining claims above Empire up Mad Creek and North Empire Road, and people are talking about accessing their claims up there to hunt on their land. And I know what the land looks like. You know, what it is it's just that mosaic with a lot of Forest Service with these claims that are laid in there. And it seems like a recipe for an exception to what we're trying to accomplish. So in the same way that I would try to protect Bear Creek, I would try to protect Silver Plume and Georgetown and Idaho Springs and Empire and the places in between, if I were the king of the world.
Yeah, and I mean, I tend to, on the stage 2 fire ban modification, I think I would support a modification of the stage 2 fire ban. I think that's just because my real preference here would be just to put in a stage 3, but we're not sure that we have that ability. And so I think if we're piecing together other measures to get as close to a stage 3 fire ban as we can, I see this as not a critical element, but an important element of this.
I think what I can do is, I really don't want to go into a stage 3 on the county level. I think with the support of HDPLC, open space, Denver Mountain Parks, and if we can change the fire ban to say no hunting, I think we'll get a lot of flack from that, but we can add no hunting on just the stage 2 fire ban. I think that would cover pretty much everything that we're talking about here. And you know, there's no shooting anyway, so you know, we're gonna only affect maybe 1 to 2% of the hunters that do hunt on private property. So I think some of them will understand, some of them won't. But I think it would probably be good. I mean, we're trying to take the human element out of the fire triangle or the how to start fires. So
right.
If this would help, then I think we could probably get her done. Bob can just take out that part of hunting in the fire ban. I could sign it again and get it passed on to you guys.
If you'll do that, I'm happy with that outcome. Bob writes one that is a total prohibition on, it extends it to a total prohibition on hunting in the county during this fire ban.
That would be faster.
And then as far as the ordinance 4, that reduces the need for county action to ordinance 4. And if it gives us a better ability to say that all those lands are closed as a county, and it precludes the need to have every one of them get back to us today with a letter or something that says that. I'm fine with invoking ordinance 4, unless that's incredibly complicated, Bob.
Well, I don't think it's incredibly complicated. I'd have to understand exactly what you wanted. And then I'll have to write it up because that's a kind of fresh one. But I think it'd be fairly simple. As I understand it, we're talking about closing the lands managed by the members of the HDPLC.
Right.
Within the HDPLC. And the question I have in my mind, and that would be for the period of time that the forest is maintaining a stage 3 fire ban.
Right.
And so my question would be whether that applies. The one I don't think we've heard from is wildlife. Wildlife owns a bunch of land up the north side of I-70 going up to Douglas Mountain.
Right.
And that's some of which is in the historic public lands district. So I don't know if you're including their lands.
That's where we're trying to get to Mark Leslie and CPW at this time, and Tim Mock, who's one of his bosses, referred me to.
So
got a call in.
So maybe you'd want to close it as to those lands for which the agency is given approval, or just close it, period. That's why I'm raising it, to get some direction on how you want it written.
Yeah, and I think there are a couple of other things that we have going here that have occurred to me. First, you just implied that there's CPW land that's outside of HDPLC. So it's important that we get CPW on board in concurrence, also closing their lands. And one other type of land that I know that I've seen out there is State Land Board, which is like, I believe, education land, you know, that kind of stuff.
Yeah.
And I don't know that we've contacted them either. And there are some parcels in the same area of Denver as Denver Mountain Parks over west of Witter Gulch, which effectively, if technically they're not closed and we haven't issued a stage 3 or something, although we would have issued the stage 2 with the no hunting thing, which would cover that ground. But in terms of access for other purposes, we probably ought to be getting with the State Land Board as well as CPW and getting their concurrence or their agreement to issue their own closure that we can then lump into the whole list of closures that constitutes the entire county.
Yeah, good catch on the State Land Board. I didn't think about that.
Just remember clicking on it on ClearMap. I forgot about that.
I think my preference would be to just close, Bob, the former thing you proposed, which is all lands managed by members of HDPLC that are within HDPLC.
Right.
I think that's simple and clean, and if we hear objections, we can address them.
Right.
From
And
individual.
then after the meeting, we get back to work on CPW and State Land Board and try to tie up those loose ends and just to get them to come into a collaborative agreement to close land so that we can express that collaboration to the public and tell them we're shut down.
So Sean brought up
Frank is trying to.
Go ahead.
I think Frank is trying to raise his hand.
Well, go, Frank, if we can hear you. We can't.
Frank, tell Martha, and Martha can tell us.
Oh yeah, type into chat, Frank.
I'll call him.
Anything but
on the bottom of your screen.
What are you trying to say, Frank?
We have to consider the loop railroad. The actual railroad park is not part of the HCPLC lands, so that has to be thought about.
Well, we can't very well close the railroad because they want to have customers, I think. They're still open, aren't they?
I just wanted to bring it up so we all realize that it's something that has to be considered. Yeah.
So to make sure I understand that statement, a complete closure of HDPLC lands would close access to the Georgetown Loop?
Yes.
I would like to clarify that. Yes. What I'm trying to say is the Loop Railroad Park is not under the auspices of the Historic District Public Land Commission. So you would need permission from the State Historical Society if they were going to do a closure or not.
Oh, so it was the opposite. We close HDPLC and it does not close the loop. And if we want to close the loop, we have to talk to Historic Colorado.
Right, that's what he's saying.
Well, I know he said it, but the map shows the historic district public lands to include the historic society land.
The agreements that set up the HDPLC specifically exclude the railroad land. So that's what I'm saying. So the State Historical Society, History Colorado, who owns those lands, they would be the ones to make the decision on their land.
Yeah, my understanding, this is Greg again, and talking with Cindy and getting some clarification on that a few months back, is that the History Colorado runs the lands where the railroad lies independent of HDPLC.
And the ordinance 4 includes the railroad lands.
I think
Or
it's,
the,
yeah, I think it's an important piece. It's a very important piece. I note that the 416 fire down by Durango was started by the Durango and Silverton Railway.
Okay, so trying to think through this, we could write the order if we weren't sure. And we didn't want to close the loop. We could write the order such that it didn't close the loop. Is that correct?
yes.
Okay. And if we, I guess I'll just express my opinion without having spoken to the management of the loop, just like we wanted to speak with open space and HDPLC land managers before we made a decision. It'd be nice to have some feedback from them. And so I guess maybe at this point, I'd be more comfortable with an order that explicitly excluded them. And then maybe we try to meet tomorrow afternoon after having had some feedback to talk about that specific location.
That piece.
I agree with that. I think shutting a private business down is a big deal, and we would at least want to do our due diligence and communicate with the owners or managers before we did anything like that.
Absolutely agreed. I agree with that. I wouldn't be comfortable with doing that today without having had that conversation with them and heard everything they had to say, think about it.
And so think about this more, Bob, we need a resolution to use ordinance 4 to close HDPLC lands. Given that resolution doesn't exist right now, we would have to pass that resolution tomorrow, or is there another method we can use?
Well, you could adopt the resolution subject to my writing it up and you're approving what I wrote. Or you could give me direction and I'll write something and then you can look at it and see if I got it right. It's a little bit 6 of one, half dozen of the other because it's not actually effective until you sign it.
Okay. I'm up for approving that resolution to be written today, with the exclusion, of course, of the railroad until such time as we've had a chance to close the loop with them. And that way we can begin to craft, and we can also spend a little time right after this meeting trying to get to, get to a couple of the other landholders, the State Land Board and CPW, and begin to craft and get out, by the end of today, then the best press release we can that is as broadly distributed as possible. That expresses what it is we've done and what it is we're doing collectively to protect our community and the forest, and then close the loop, no pun intended, tomorrow with the Georgetown loop.
I think you did intend that pun.
No, I didn't. It was, right before it came out of my mouth, it hit me, but it was an accident.
So I'm happy to make a motion. I might need some help with some language, Bob, to make the motion that most efficiently gets this done.
The motion is to pursuant to section 2.2.10 of ordinance 4, adopt a closure of the HDPLC lands, the lands of the HDPLC agencies, or lands of the HDPLC members within the that are managed by and within the Historic District Public Lands District, except those of the that are used by the Georgetown Loop Railroad. And we'll pick a time and date for that to be effective. I think I've covered what you were saying.
Why not just have it effective midnight tonight?
Yeah.
If you don't sign it until tomorrow, it won't be effective till tomorrow anyway.
Well, I can come sign.
But he could, you could authorize us to sign it.
Yeah.
Yeah, we can sign by all three of us, or I can, if you just need the chair, I can sign it however you want to do it. It's fine with me. And I'm available to physically sign it if you need it.
Okay.
And then
midnight tonight.
Yeah, and then the second piece, the second action item for you, Bob, is to immediately in the same time frame, so effective this evening, effective midnight tonight, craft the language for the change to the stage 2 fire ban that Rick can then sign, and then we're off and running at midnight tonight, and we can craft a press release and all the communication that we need to help echo out into the community and social media and everywhere that this is taking place. And then we can add to that and edit as we reach the additional couple of parties that we need to add. We can craft the whole thing and simply add their names to the line item and the description of their land, if we to itemize that.
Bob, I thought I heard you say that this would be synchronized with the forest stage 3 closure, such that when they lift it, ours would be lifted as well, or would we have to have another meeting to basically undo what we're talking about doing now?
No, I was going to make it just while the forest order is in place. That seems not only logical, but it makes it administratively easier. Because then if the forest changes their order in Clear Creek County, then
okay,
so
perfect. You didn't mention that in your description of the motion, but I wanted to make sure, because I agree. I think that's the cleanest and easiest way to do it too.
Yeah.
Are you okay with that, George?
Yeah.
I do too. Okay, I am. I mean, I could have gone either way and said, we'll call a meeting and end it, and that gives us the opportunity to think about it before we lift something that important, but I'm also okay either direction on that for now. And I'm sure that we would be in collaboration with the Forest Service as they were in collaboration with us now anyway, in advance. And if we had a reason to change something, we could change it then. So I'm fine with a lift upon the lift of the stage 3, the SFS ban.
Hey, Bob, can you put that if the Forest Service comes out of their stage 3, that we just roll back to the old stage 2 fire ban, or would we have to do a whole new stage or a whole new act?
You're talking about to enable or allow hunting again, Sheriff?
Yes.
Bob could write it that way, I think.
I think we can write it that way, but if when that happens, we want to do a press release to make it clear to people, because they don't read these things that closely.
Right. We're leaving in about 2 minutes.
But I can do it.
Yeah. Okay.
All right, thanks. I gotta go help Grand County. They're evacuating Granby and they're asking for more officers. So I'm taking 3 more over there. So I gotta go.
Good luck, Rick.
Thanks, Rick.
So did we just establish a plan of action?
I think we have a unseconded motion unless so I will second that motion.
Okay. Do we have further discussion about it?
I don't think so. Yeah, I made the motion, I guess, and that motion includes both what Bob said, all three of what Bob said the motion describes, that it's effective at midnight tonight, and that it is no longer effective when the Forest Service removes the stage 3 fire ban, just to clarify all of that in one section of the meeting.
It's my understanding as well. Okay, all in favor? Aye.
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 Good enough. So
Okay, when I get it written up, I'll circulate it to you three. And then I'll work with the sheriff to get his done.
And Carl, Carl Shell, I know I've been promising you and Rick to get on that list, and I will take a glance through it and see if I think of a road or a spot that's critical, because that's not really part of what we're deciding in a resolution or anything here today. That's more of a management tool of how we're communicating and how we're preventing access into certain areas. I know there's certain barricades and sign going into places, and I'll be happy to weigh in on that list that I said I would for the last 24 hours and didn't get to.
Okay. We are ready to go with 20 various road closure signs or barricades. We plan on starting that as soon as this meeting ends today, if that's the direction we're going. Any clarification from the board on what we want to do with Guanella Pass?
When will we do to close normally?
November 30th.
So we're about 5 weeks early, 6 weeks early.
Yes.
Is it temporary?
My preference would be maybe to wait till next week to see what the prevailing weather patterns look like and where we're at, because it seems like very soon we're going to be headed into at least a brief period of a respite of high humidity and low temps and lower winds.
Yeah, and just to clarify a little more as well, Sean, with the conversations with the Forest Service, everything, at the summit, the parking lot to the west goes into Pike Forest, so that will not be closed. So I just don't know how you guys feel about closing the roadway itself. I think that's something we probably should.
Yeah, I think what that requires, Carl, is a conversation with the Pike National Forest and Park County.
Yeah.
We usually collaborate on that decision together because you need to close both gates at once. And so, I mean, my inclination is actually to close it, that would be a good decision, but kind of like with the railroad, I don't think we should make a decision like that today until we've closed the loop with the Pike National Forest and Park County. So that's
okay.
another thing to get to work on today, and then maybe we can come back to that. It could be did we decide we're not having another meeting tomorrow to decide anything, or we are having one to try to close the loop on the railroad?
I think we should put one on the schedule, and if we end up not needing to take it, then great.
Okay, I agree.
Okay.
What time are the other two commissioners good for?
It'd be nice if it was after 1 o'clock so we could get a notice out.
Right. Agreed.
Beth, can you get a notice out by 1 o'clock?
I'm available after 2.
Well, let's make it 2. And if Sean's available, then I think I can.
Yeah, I have a gathering with some other men that I'm in a coaching group with that's all afternoon. But if you pick a time and we're disciplined and focused and it lasts for like 20 minutes or less, I should be fine.
I think we can do that. It's a pretty singular topic, and we might be adding in some of this other stuff. It would be for the purpose of discussing Guanella Pass and the railroad. And if we stick to that, we should be able to go through it really quickly. And then we'll see if we we may make some ground with Park County and Pike National Forest over the week or today. And I'll take that on.
Okay, so to give me time to get to this meeting, can we do 2:30? Is that too late in the day?
No, I'm fine.
Fine with me.
Beth, did they vote? Okay, thank
It
you.
was unanimous, like always.
They did vote, sorry.
Yeah, like always.
Okay, so what about county roads within the U.S. Forest Service that don't provide access to homes? Does this board need to take action to close them? Does the authority already exist at the administrative level to close them?
I think that's what we're doing now because we're actually barricading county roads before you get to the National Forest already. And the Forest Service has closed all Forest Service roads. And the Forest Service and the county have a kind of a disagreement, but a fairly friendly disagreement about who owns exactly which roads in the National Forest. And I think the Forest Service says once you cross into the National Forest, it's their road. We say we have some records that show, old HUTF records and stuff like that show that we own deeper into the forest. But we don't functionally disagree on who's responsible for managing and whose priorities hold sway there. So I think the forest closure pretty well affects those roads, and I think we would just support that. That's my recommendation. But we're already, I mean, as Carl just said, we got a couple of dozen barricades and signs and stuff we're getting out there already beyond residences and stuff like that.
Yes.
So I think we're doing it now through administratively.
Yeah, Randy, because most of the Forest Service roads are accessed by county roads. North Empire, Silver City, Saxon Mountain, Waldorf, they all start out as county roads.
Right, and I think the point is that we have historic records and this is where it gets unique and very interesting, is we have county records showing that we actually at one time were maintaining all the way to Billmore Lake. And so the county contends that we own the road all the way to Billmore Lake.
Right.
And the Forest Service disagrees with that, understandably. So, and those are just some old records that we have.
So the other question I have is my understanding then that this takes effect at midnight tonight?
Yes.
Okay. Because there's a couple of social media outlets I can post for the mountain bikers that if they want to go ride Floyd Hill, they better do it today. And then, it'll be closed until the Forest Service lifts their order.
I might suggest some alternative framing. Not sure we want to.
Yeah, you don't want to invite them to 1,000 of them or 2,000 of them.
All right.
This afternoon.
Just to ride there tomorrow, but 1,000 of you can come today. The more, the better. That's.
That said, I think you meant that as a joke, and I take it as such.
Yeah. I mean, maybe just the Floyd Hill will be closed. I mean, I should post something. I mean, there's 18,000 mountain bikers on it, so whatever messaging you want me to post.
I think I think what we're going to do is put together a press release pretty quickly.
Okay.
Announcement of all of this, and
So I
start
can just
crafting
copy
it
that
after this meeting. And I think probably you should wait on that, and then you can use that as the basis of your communication. And also, and I don't remember if you were on at the beginning of the meeting, but I did talk to Gary Moore with Comba. He was completely supportive and also said Comba would help get the news, that they would get the news out to their membership that A, they support the closure on North Floyd Hill, and B, they're encouraging people to honor that closure, and that it's just for a very short term in the interest of the public and the forest.
Okay,
Yeah,
I'll wait.
Not to belabor it, but I mean, it's 40 degrees and overcast and Evergreen night right now, so no one's going to be chomping to go ride their bike. But I mean, it'd be nice as a courtesy to prevent people from taking a fruitless trip tomorrow morning or the weekend.
Right, exactly. So what I'll do then is I'll wait on the press release and I'll copy that language and just post that on the social media. And then Gary usually comments on my post to reinforce the Comba perspective.
And so I don't know who's crafting the press release, but for things to do coming out of this meeting so that we're effective I'll take on these 4 items, which are contacting these people, Pike Park, CPW, and state lands, and try to continue pushing that. I've already got some inquiries out on part of it. And then somebody needs to take on this press release and getting it done now. Who might be that team that wants
I just emailed Chris Kraus and told her to get in touch with us in a couple hours when we have all the details from the motion and the resolution.
Do we have anybody here that wants to take on helping to craft all of that?
If anybody needs my assistance, I'm happy to offer it.
I'm not sure Chris really needs any help, but
I think she can probably do a pretty good job.
Well, just somebody to work with her and make sure. I don't see her on this call. So to make sure that all the facts are as inclusive as we want them to be and also accurate across the board would be helpful. So if she wants to work, if George wants to work with her just to make sure, because I think he understands all the pieces and details. If he wants to work with Chris and he's got time, I'm fine with that.
She can feel free to reach out to me if she needs me. Yeah. And I tend to agree, Randy, her not being here means somebody who is here should look at it.
That's all.
Martha and Frank, give me a call, will you please?
Do we have anything else for now?
don't we have another agenda item?
Beth,
you're muted.
You guys, we did revise the agenda. We have an 11:15 item. It's to make grant application. And Joni Albers is on the line. She can tell you about that. We just need formal approval from you guys to make application.
And before she starts, just so you all know, just for coordination purposes, I intend to call Mark Grable with the Georgetown Loop.
Okay, so Joni, take it away.
Hi, guys. First of all, thank you for throwing me on the agenda. I appreciate it. I'm working, and I kind of said a background, but we've started working on trying to put together a peer support team for first responders in Clear Creek County. There's quite a few that are within the Denver metro area. Summit County has one, and they're usually agency only, and we're putting one together with all first responder agencies in Clear Creek, financial reasons, small rural community reasons, resource reasons. And so we started working on this. A few of us have gone to trainings, and we have a development committee with representatives from all agencies. And so we're trying to get this set up. We started it in February, then COVID hit, and we came back in August. And so we're applying for a grant through DOLA, which is for peace officers' mental health. So it would be just for the law enforcement portion, but I'm applying for $10,000 and it's due Monday. And so we're trying to get that so that we can get a peer support team going in Clear Creek County for all first responders. So it would include all the law enforcement agencies, EMS, fire, coroner's office, and we are also including advocates as because they not necessarily respond first, but they sit with people for hours. So so it's really a mental health and hopefully helps retain employees and keep them healthy. So I need, since it's DOLA, I need the county board of county commissioners. We are applying for it under the sheriff's office as a lead agency, just because they're the largest agency, law enforcement wise. Does anybody have any questions on it?
No, but I think we have a resolution, correct?
It's just a grant application, I think. Is that right?
Yeah, it's just a grant application.
So just a vote to approve the grant application is all we need. Okay.
I have a quick question. First off, thanks, Joni, for taking this on. Did this come out of the recommendations or kind of the groundswell that happened from the the grand jury that the sheriff and Bruce Brown were talking about a week or two ago?
No, this is actually Joni from like probably 8 years ago. Yeah, it used to be critical incident stress management, and we were trying to get teams together there too. And that was, it's kind of lowered down. It's more of a push. And some of that, yes, I think the urgency may have came from that. I think we're coordinating with Foundation 1023 for the mental health part of it, because they do a lot of free mental health and they work with first responders. We're also working with Building Warriors to be our clinical and consultation. So they responded when the firefighter in Summit County died. And so it's really kind of, in the old days, it was kind of poo-pooed because it was, suck it up, buttercup. You guys are first responders. And it has really come out to, based on experience and research, that, you have a very high risk of suicide in first responders and family life. And so it's a combination, but I would say, Sean, yes, some of it was recognized more because of that.
Awesome. Well, thanks again. Yeah, I think this one's a no-brainer. Let's do it.
Cool. When I do the application, I just put in, it's an online, and I just put this date as the board did review and approve. But I do need help from Bob probably, or maybe Brent on Tabor. I know for the gaming grant, we do the same thing, but I don't know why we do it.
I might have the answers to those questions for you from our energy mineral. I could share with you.
Okay, that'd be awesome. Thank you, Beth. And thanks, guys, for this short notice. When I was doing it yesterday, I'm like, oh no. So thank you. I appreciate it.
Yeah, and I support this as well. I'm curious, what's the match?
Well, they don't have a match. It's a first come, first serve, and we are down at the bottom. I'm sure. I'm hoping that have some funds. Our budget is really a proposed budget too. I mean, everybody sees the value, but we're a community that doesn't have a lot of extra funds. So, what an agency can't do, we're hoping that we can fill that in with some corporate. I'm going to, reach out to some of the larger corporations like Alfry and Freeport and see if we can get some funding there as well. I mean, it's really important, I think, not only for the first responders, but it's important for our community too, because it really does keep your people healthy. So
Awesome. Thank you. And so, Bob, do we need a motion of some type, I imagine?
Motion to approve authorizing the grant application.
So moved. Second.
Thank you, guys. And when we get this, even so that we have, I mean, it is very in the early stages. We are planning on presenting to Board of County Commissioners, mayors, and things like that, so that they understand kind of what this peer support team is a little bit more. So we'll be inviting you to that too as well. Thanks, guys.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Awesome. Have a good day. If you don't need me anymore, and I'll reach out to Beth for my answers.
Thanks,
you.
Joni.
Anything else, Bob?
No, I think Beth is going to notice for tomorrow, and I've got work to do this afternoon.
Bob, I'll send you my notes.
Thank you.
Okay.
Thanks, everyone.
Okay.
Thanks.
We're adjourned.
Yep.
I think that's what that meant.